Cristiano Ronaldo notices a young girl at his son's school, always alone and carrying an invisible weight. Upon learning about her heartbreaking past, he steps in with an unexpected plan that leaves everyone speechless. But will it be enough to help her find hope again? What unfolds is a journey of resilience, unexpected bonds, and a moment that will change them both forever. The early morning sun painted golden streaks across the Turin sky as Cristiano Ronaldo walked hand in hand with his son Cristiano Jr. toward the school gates. The routine had become something he cherished, those quiet moments before the chaos of his day began. Fathers rarely had the luxury of time, and Ronaldo made sure to savour it. But today, something unsettled him. Near the playground, sitting alone on a weathered wooden bench, was the same little girl he had noticed before. Her brown hair fell messily over her small frame, and her eyes, distant, unfocused, were locked on the pavement as if the world around her didn't exist. The other children played in clusters, laughter echoing in the crisp air. She remained still, untouched by the joy around her. Ronaldo frowned. "Who is she?" Cristiano Jr. followed his father's gaze and sighed. "That's Eva." Something in the way he said it made Ronaldo's chest tighten. "Why is she always alone?" Cristiano Jr. hesitated, then lowered his voice. "She's new. No one really knows her. But people say something really bad happened to her." Ronaldo's brow furrowed. "What do you mean?" Cristiano Jr. shuffled his feet. "They say her parents, they're gone. A car crash. She's in a foster home now." Ronaldo exhaled, feeling a weight settle on his heart. He looked back at Eva. The way she sat, her shoulders curled inward, her hands gripping the edge of the bench, she wasn't just alone. She was lost. The school bell rang, breaking the moment. Cristiano Jr. gave his father a quick hug and ran toward his friends, blending seamlessly into the crowd. But Ronaldo remained still, his gaze fixed on the little girl who had no one to run to. For the rest of the day, he couldn't shake the image from his mind. The next morning, Ronaldo found himself searching for her the moment he arrived. There she was, sitting in the same spot, her presence ghost-like amidst the lively schoolyard. He observed how the other children glanced at her but never approached, how the teachers seemed aware of her, but offered only fleeting smiles. This wasn't just grief. This was isolation. That night at dinner, Ronaldo couldn't help but bring it up again. "Chris, does Eva ever talk to anyone?" His son shrugged. "Not really. She barely talks at all. I don't think she even eats during lunch." Ronaldo's grip tightened around his fork. He knew what it felt like to be overlooked, to be the kid with nothing, standing on the outside looking in. But this was different. The next day, he took a different approach. As he dropped off his son, he spotted Eva sitting alone, her small hands twisting the sleeves of her sweater. He knelt to Cristiano Jr.'s level. "Do you think she'd like it if you said hi?" Cristiano Jr. hesitated. "I don't know. Maybe." Ronaldo smiled. "Give it a try." His son gave a small nod and took a step toward Eva, but before he could say a word, the school bell rang and she was gone, disappearing into the crowd, her presence as fleeting as a whisper. Ronaldo exhaled. This wasn't going to be easy, but then again, nothing worth doing ever was. Ronaldo couldn't shake the thought of Eva's loneliness. It followed him throughout his day, lingering in the back of his mind like an unresolved match. He had spent his life overcoming obstacles, pushing past every challenge thrown his way, but this was different. That evening, as he watched his children laughing at the dinner table, a thought struck him. No child should ever feel like they don't belong. The next morning, Ronaldo arrived at the school a little earlier than usual. He had spoken to the principal, requesting permission for something special. When the children entered the classroom that day, they were met with something unexpected. A colourful banner that read, "Welcome Eva," strung across the wall. A table at the back of the room held cupcakes, juice boxes, and small party favours. It wasn't extravagant, but it was warm. It was inviting. As the kids settled in, the teacher clapped her hands. "Before we start the day, we have a little celebration. Let's all welcome Eva to our class." Murmurs spread across the room. Some kids exchanged glances, surprised. A few clapped hesitantly. And there, standing at her desk, was Eva, frozen. Her eyes darted around as if searching for an escape. Ronaldo watched from the doorway, unnoticed. Cristiano Jr. was the first to walk over. "Hey Eva, want to sit with us?" His voice was casual, but there was an effort behind it. Eva hesitated. Slowly she nodded. As she moved toward the table, the ice began to crack. Other children followed suit, offering small smiles, asking simple questions. It wasn't much, but it was the first time Ronaldo saw something different in her eyes. Not happiness, not yet, but something close to hope. Later that day, when the celebration had ended and the children returned to their routines, Ronaldo finally stepped forward. Eva was sitting alone near the classroom bookshelf, tracing invisible patterns on the wooden surface. He knelt beside her, his voice soft. "Did you like the party?" She looked up at him, startled. Up close, he saw the deep sadness in her eyes, an old kind of sadness, one that didn't belong on a child's face. She gave a small nod. "Thank you." It was the first time he'd heard her voice. It was quiet, barely above a whisper. "You don't have to thank me," he said. "You deserve to be welcomed." Eva stared at him for a moment before looking away. "People don't usually notice me." Ronaldo felt something tighten in his chest. He took a slow breath. "That's not true," he said gently. "I noticed you." For the first time since he had met her, Eva's lips curled into the faintest trace of a smile. It was small, fragile, but it was there. And for Ronaldo, that was enough to know he had taken the first step. Over the next few days, Ronaldo saw small but noticeable changes in Eva. She still wasn't the loudest in the room, nor did she suddenly become the centre of attention, but the shift was there. A glance toward a classmate instead of staring at her shoes, a quiet thank you when someone passed her a pencil. The walls she'd built weren't gone, but there were cracks in them now, letting in a little light, and yet something still wasn't right. One afternoon, as Ronaldo waited outside the school, he caught sight of Eva standing by the entrance. The other kids had already left, and for a moment she just stood there, unmoving. Then a black sedan pulled up. A kind-looking woman stepped out, a gentle smile, soft eyes. Eva walked toward her mechanically, her body moving but her spirit absent. That night at home, Ronaldo asked his son, "How's Eva doing in school?" Cristiano Jr. thought for a second. "Better, I think. She talks a little more now, but..." He hesitated. "But what?" Cristiano Jr. looked down at his plate, pushing his food around. "She's still sad, like all the time. Even when she smiles, it's not real, you know?" Ronaldo leaned back in his chair, his fingers pressing against his temple. He had done something, but not enough. That night, unable to sleep, he found himself researching. He read about children dealing with grief, how loss at such a young age could stain them forever if not handled with care. He looked into therapy, treatments, ways to bring back the spark that had been ripped away from her life. And then he found something, an article about dolphin therapy. He read stories of children suffering from deep emotional wounds who had found peace through the simple, playful presence of dolphins. The combination of water, movement, and interaction with these gentle creatures had helped them open up, feel again. A plan began forming in his mind. The next morning he made a call. By the afternoon he had booked an entire trip to the south of France, where one of the world's most renowned dolphin therapy centres was located. He had taken his family on vacations before, but this wasn't just for leisure, this was for Eva. Later that evening, as his children played in the living room, Ronaldo sat with his wife and explained everything. "I don't just want to give her a fun trip," he said, his voice firm but gentle. "I want to give her a way out of this darkness." His wife listened, her eyes softening as he spoke. When he was done, she nodded. "Then let's do it." Ronaldo exhaled, feeling the weight of uncertainty lift just slightly. Now he just had one more step, convincing Eva. The next morning, as Ronaldo pulled up to the school, he felt something unfamiliar, a rare flicker of nervousness. He had stood in front of thousands, faced down the world's best defenders, but this was different. Eva was sitting alone again, her tiny frame curled up on the bench. Her fingers toyed with the hem of her sweater, eyes locked on the ground as if the weight of the world rested on her small shoulders. Ronaldo approached slowly, careful not to startle her. "Hey, Eva." She lifted her head slightly. It was the first time he had seen something in her eyes that wasn't just sadness, curiosity. "Hi," she murmured. He knelt so they were at eye level. "I wanted to ask you something," he said, his voice light but serious. "Have you ever seen a dolphin before?" Eva blinked, caught off guard. The question was so unexpected that for a moment, the weight on her seemed to lift. She hesitated, then gave a small shake of her head. "Only in pictures," Ronaldo smiled. "What if I told you I'm planning a trip to see some? A place where you can swim with them, play with them?" Eva's brows furrowed, as if trying to understand why he was telling her this. "And," he continued, "what if I told you I'd like you to come with us?" Eva just stared at him, her lips slightly parted. She wasn't rejecting the idea. She was struggling to believe it. Ronaldo softened his voice. "You don't have to answer now, but just know, you're invited. My family and I would love to have you with us." She lowered her gaze. He could see the battle happening inside her, hope trying to break through fear. Finally she whispered, "Why?" The question struck Ronaldo like a punch to the chest, not because it was unexpected, but because of the sheer honesty in it. He took a slow breath. "Because I see you, Eva, and I know how hard it can be when the world feels like it's forgotten you. But you're not forgotten." For a long moment, Eva didn't say anything. Her fingers gripped her sweater a little tighter, and then, for the first time, her eyes glistened. She quickly looked away, but Ronaldo had seen it. A crack in the dam, a glimpse of something she had long buried, emotion. The school bell rang, snapping her out of the moment. She hurried off toward the classroom without another word. Ronaldo stayed behind, watching her disappear into the building. He didn't have an answer yet, but for the first time, he had hope. Days passed, and Eva hadn't mentioned the trip. Ronaldo didn't push. She needed to come to her own decision. But he noticed the way she looked at him now, less guarded, more searching, as if trying to figure out if he truly meant what he said. Then, on a quiet afternoon, everything changed. Ronaldo was standing near the school gates when he felt a small tug on his sleeve. He turned, and there she was, Eva. She wasn't alone this time. Cristiano Jr. stood beside her, giving Ronaldo a quick glance before nodding, as if silently saying, "This is her moment." Eva looked up at him, her fingers gripping the straps of her backpack. "I want—" She hesitated, swallowed hard. Then, barely above a whisper, she said, "I want to go." A warmth spread through Ronaldo's chest. He crouched to her level, keeping his voice gentle. "Are you sure?" Eva nodded, but there was something else in her expression, something fragile. "But what if they don't want me to go?" she asked, almost afraid of the answer. Ronaldo immediately understood. She wasn't talking about her foster family. She was talking about her parents. A deep, aching sorrow filled the space between them. This wasn't just about a trip. This was about allowing herself to feel happiness again without guilt. Ronaldo exhaled slowly. "Eva." He placed a comforting hand on his chest. "The people we love never truly leave us. They'd want you to smile. They'd want you to live." She blinked rapidly, as if fighting back something she'd been holding in for far too long. Then, after what felt like an eternity, she gave the smallest nod. And for the first time since he had met her, Ronaldo saw something new in her eyes. Not just hope, courage. With Eva's adoptive parents' agreement secured, Ronaldo's plan was set into motion. The warm Mediterranean breeze swept through the coastal town in the south of France as Ronaldo's family arrived at the aquatic centre. The air was filled with the scent of the sea, the distant chatter of families, and the rhythmic crashing of waves against the shore. Eva stood at the edge of the wooden dock, clutching the straps of her life vest. Her small frame was rigid, her wide eyes locked onto the turquoise water below. Ronaldo knelt beside her. Nervous? Eva didn't answer right away. Instead, she turned to him, her brows furrowed in quiet contemplation. "What if I can't do it?" she finally asked. Ronaldo smiled. "Then we take it slow, no rush." He gestured toward the water where a sleek grey dolphin surfaced, letting out a high-pitched chirp as if calling to her. "But I think he's waiting for you." Eva's lips twitched. Not quite a smile, but something close. Cristiano Jr. and the other kids splashed playfully, laughter filling the air. A trainer held out a hand for Eva, nodding encouragingly. She hesitated for just a moment longer. Then, with a deep breath, she stepped forward, into the water, into the unknown. The coolness enveloped her, but she didn't pull away. The dolphin swam up beside her, gentle and patient, as if sensing her uncertainty. The trainer guided her hands, and for the first time, Eva reached out and touched the dolphin's smooth skin. Her breath hitched. The dolphin let out another chirp, nudging closer. And just like that, something inside her shifted. Eva let out a laugh. Soft, hesitant, but real. It was the first time Ronaldo had ever heard her laugh. He watched as the walls she'd built around herself, the grief, the fear, the loneliness began to crack. She wasn't just touching a dolphin. She was touching the possibility of happiness again. Later that evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of gold and crimson, Eva sat beside Ronaldo on the deck overlooking the sea. The waves shimmered under the fading light, a gentle lullaby against the shore. She was quiet for a while, but this time it wasn't the silence of sadness. Then, without turning to him, she whispered, "Thank you." Ronaldo looked down at her and saw something he hadn't seen before. Peace. He placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "Any time." And for the first time since they met, Eva smiled. Not a small one, not a hesitant one, a real one. And in that moment, Ronaldo knew this wasn't just a trip, it was the beginning of something new. For Eva, for all of them.